But when I got there, I thought I might have been off cue because I pulled up and there were some people in the roadway, and people were chasing them back, and I couldn't figure out. Maybe I was early, was I late? What was the deal? I wanted to be on time. I wanted to make it right for y'all because I didn't want to mess it up. That was my biggest fear, was I was going to mess everything up.
I just cried, and I knew it was all, staged, but I was out there filming some of it for my own personal use, and one student came up and put his arm around my shoulder and says, "All those are your kids out there, aren't they, Mrs. Hamill?" And I just lost it and said, "Yes." I couldn't even hardly hold the camera still, and it was like it was really happening when I looked at it and knew it was staged.
These are the most horrific ones because it's where injustice was most inappropriately served. And I think that this one in particular, though, had a very interesting effect on me. I watched the video section in the gym prior to going out to the scene, and I connected emotionally with these kids. And when I went out to the scene, I began to tear up. I'm a very emotional person to begin with, and it sometimes becomes difficult on scenes like that, but I've become professional at separating myself emotionally and doing a professional job.
It was very tough for me to deal with, and it didn't hit me until I saw him zip up the body bag, and I just lost it right there.
I was feeling, I don't know, I wasn't really nervous. I was ready to get going, but I didn't know how I was going to handle Chad running up to me, and being in the body bag was the thing, because you're laying there and the body bag's final. I mean, you get in a body bag, you see an accident, and you see somebody with a body bag, in a body bag, that means it's your final. That's it. You're done.
It was kind of weird, and I guess the body bag wasn't so much weird, but it was weird when they tagged my foot, or when the man pronounced my death at 10:48 a.m. It was really, really weird. It's like you're almost looking down from heaven watching this go on, because you see yourself there and you see yourself just all limp. And when they pull you out, I was just limp. They were doing everything for me, stuff that I could have done, if I was alive. And so it was like I was looking down on this scene.
Well, I had already gotten, like when we got on the road scenes, it really, like on the road, it started to hit me and I started to freak out and it started to scare me. And then when they laid me on the road, like I could see Blake laying across from me, and it really scared me. But I think getting in the ambulance and being able to relax a little bit and not act and just kind of lay there, it gave me time to grab a hold of everything, know that everything was okay. And then everybody's parents started coming in, and I was like, okay, this is going to be okay. I was like, where's my dad? And then seeing my dad gave me a real reality check. Like, I was like, yeah, okay, we're just playing. This is just okay. This isn't for real.
I knew in the back of my mind that these kids were okay. That's the only thing that changed it. I might not have been so aggressive. I probably would have done something with Jeff instead of just letting him walk around. Chad at the body, at Blake's body. There was a lot of things that I would have done a little bit more aggressively.
Tension was running. We were all in the trucks like, oh my gosh, oh, he's running out the door. Here they come. Oh, and just everybody was all nervous and excited, and muscles were cramping. It was great.
I'm so scared.
I love you, Mom.
I'm gonna throw up.
Okay, I'm so nervous, but I hope that this pays off because, we really need this at our school.
I'm nervous. I'm so nervous. I'm scared. I'm really excited though. Yeah. Wish me luck. Yeah, the blood's gross. It's like caked to my arm.
We were sitting there in the back seat, and Alicia's in the front seat, me and Misty are in the back. And she's like, oh my gosh, here comes Officer Wells. He's running out the door. The door's opening up again. It was really nervous. I was shaking, and then when you said action, I just started screaming. I didn't know what else to do. I totally got into my part, As soon as, I didn't even see the kids at all. I didn't even look at them or anything like that. But as soon as, they told us to go or whatever and started screaming, and then they put us down on the ground, and I rolled over and I looked under the car and I saw Blake, and that was just like, whoa, he really looks like he was dead.
I felt really bad. It's still my whole mind. I was just thinking it's fake, it's all right, but it hurts me to hurt my mom, so it made me feel bad. And then I started crying, and it just got worse.
I didn't think I'd be able to cry because I was, because I was afraid that we were joking around before with everybody already in their makeup. And I was kind of afraid that I wouldn't be able to cry and I get, upset. But as soon as you said go, and I just saw them, I don't know what happened, I just flipped out. Oh, I was crying so hard. I cried afterwards. After everybody left, I was still crying.
Well, we knew it was pretend right off the bat, but we said, well, we only got one take, so we got to do it like it is, and everything. So it was make sure you do everything right and in order and the best you can and make sure they get what they want. And so that way, but when I pulled up, it looked so real. I went, darn, and started looking at it. I said, man, they really did a good wreck this time, and we just had to take everything one step at a time when we got there.
Yes, sir. How much you had? I don't know. Smell like a brewery.
His famous quote, "You smell like a brewery." That was pretty good. I always remind him about that every time, we'll work a case, a DWI or something, and he's got alcohol-related problem there. I always tell him, does he smell like a brewery?
With the new state laws like it is, all I got to do is smell it in their DUI if they're behind a car, But being responsible as an adult, teenagers just don't have that yet. To be able to drink one and drive, especially with everybody else in the car, because 1 leads to 2, 2 leads to 3, 3 leads to 6. And then by the time they get 6 in, they can't operate anything at that point.
Out there on the scene, we all were in our professional role. And I think it was a fabulous job. You had the typical crying people. It was just what you have on a scene, is exactly that. It was nice for me, as a matter of fact, to take this home and show this to my wife, because this is one of the scenes that I do not like to take her to, or one of the parts of the job I do not like to share with just anybody, and for her to see what I do, what happens on a scene.
We smashed the bottle to get the smell on the scene, was my thought. We needed when the kids came out, the high school kids that came out to the scene, the realism came in the smell, and the busting the bottle shattered it all over the roadway. It also put the bottle all over the roadway so you could physically see that. Renfro Glass helped us out by providing us paint. We wanted to have glass on the roadway just the same way it would be in a real wreck. Of course, we knew we couldn't go in and start smashing out windows and things, so they volunteered and donated that sheet of glass for us. We asked him if he'd bring it in and put it out on the road, and kind of to everyone's amazement, he did. He just dropped it, and it shattered everywhere. But it added to the. We wanted the scene to be as real as possible. When we've done these staged ones before without going all the way with it. The cars were old junky cars that kids really wouldn't be in and things like that. And what Leslie did was just short of amazing to me, to match those to a T. Everyone that has seen this movie has said, y'all didn't wreck those, but man, that's the same car. And I was even amazed. When they pulled the Tundra up, I had seen pictures, but I'd never seen it in person.
Well, it was hard, but they kept pushing us away where we couldn't see anything of what was happening to them or anything like that, but Jonesy was there and it got him, and then when I sat down next to him to hug him and stuff like that, I let loose too.
The emotions are running, and the sound, and just everybody else crying, and Misty screaming, which was really getting to me. And then I didn't see Jeff at all, but I saw Blake, and I saw Laurie. When they pronounced Laurie on my side of the car, and that really, really broke me. That just broke it.
Pronouncing somebody who's terminally ill and in their bed the first time was hard. But after you've seen some of these horrific scenes where drinking is involved and an innocent driver or passenger is killed, that threshold moves to that level, to where pronouncing somebody who's terminally ill does not disturb your innermost being. And I think this has actually been a very difficult thing for me to deal with. I think anybody who comes across this scene with young lives tragically ending, and the reality of that, when you're sitting there on the scene and looking at somebody who's passed, who no longer lives, that's real. That's reality. We see it in the movies all the time, and these kids hear of it, but for it to be reality. And I might add, that's one thing that this video did, was it crystallized the reality of an accident and what happens in this process from beginning to end for these kids.
Chris was giving us play-by-play when Officer Wells was coming out of the door. He's like, okay, he's coming out the door. Okay, he's getting in the car. Okay, they're coming out the door. Just right then and there, all our nerves were jumping and we were going crazy, and Lori was starting to cry and I was freaking out, and just right then and there, we just knew that this is it, here we go, and just, you know, buckle up. And it was just scary, it was crazy.
When they brought her out and she was face down and her arms just swung loose, you know, everything just kind of, I don't know how to describe it. It just became more than real.
The way that this was an example of truly what happens to so many lives out there, of people who are going about their normal business, having a good time, having fun, working, and then crash, it's over.
She really looked dead. I was really, you know, you forget that it's not, you know, that it's not real, that it is to pretend. And you just go down that path from the time that they were born that you sit and worry about, is something ever going to happen to this child? You know, it's just about from the time you first conceive them, then you start thinking, oh, will something happen? Will something happen? And all that just starts flashing through, and you just forget that it's not fake. It could happen. It just hits home really hard.
Just to think that I could cause that much damage to a friend of mine without even trying to, it just made me feel horrible.
Boom, everything comes in, and the silence just started getting heavier and heavier on that crowd. You know, and I was on the scene watching what was going on and tried to involve them or engage them, the crowd, or see what their level of engagement was in this. And then eventually you could see people getting emotional in the crowd over what was going on here. And it was just, yes, it's connecting. You know, and you hate to say, yes, it's connecting in the middle of a scene like this, but I knew it wasn't real, but it was making a connection with those kids.
But whenever he had me in that position, it just more uncomfortable because I had his elbow going into my back.
But my deal was when I got him in the headlock, I was going to tell him, hey, don't be doing this, man. Calm down, it's all right, you know. But then you were right there, so I was going, well, all right, we'll go ahead and lead into it and keep it going, you know, and stuff. And then when I told him he was under arrest, I went to grab him, and it was so hot that day, my hands had done sweated up. And it would have looked really bad if the Explorer wouldn't have been there to push him, you know. So,
why didn't he double lock the handcuffs? I'm like sitting back there, and I told him like the morning before when we were at the Family Life Center, and we were like, oh, me and Justin had to go out and clean the Tundra. We're sitting in there, and he comes up, and I'm like, be sure and double lock the handcuffs. And he's like, okay, so you know, I figure he did it. Well, I get in, I sit back, and they start tightening, and I'm just kind of like squirming around, you know, because I'm trying to stay in character because everybody can see me.
You know, because the way it looks on video, you can't really tell it unless you're really watching, you know, that I let him get away, you know, and stuff. But everybody that's seen the video has been really, really impressed. You know, my family members and my kids and things to that nature.
I was drunk. I mean, you don't really think when you're drunk. You just react. I mean, you have the choice of going and sitting in a car or your friend in your brand new truck that you're worried about, you know? You can go take care of them or sit in the back of a car and go to jail.
They'll sit back there and they'll talk a little bit, but, you know, pretty much, well, what you got on me on camera is how I am on the way. You know, I don't care. You know, that's it. You know, I'm sorry to hear that, and we'll get down to the intoxilizer and you can tell it all on video down there, you know, and do it that way. I mean, that's zero tolerance on DWIs.
Unfortunately, I've had the bad opportunity to be on several wreck scenes and actually even see fatality accidents involving drunk driving. Things that you'll never forget, though, 10 years ago or more when these things happen. And the scenes were very real. It was exactly the way you saw it on that movie. There was the injuries that Methodist did, the makeup work they did was just as accurate as you ever could ask for. The way the vehicles laid out, the way the paramedics, the police officers responded. Our emergency service crews were just fantastic. Care Flight. You know, it's amazing to me when I look back at it how many people willingly opened up their arms to this program. You know, Methodist Hospital and Karen Yates and her staff, Dr. Simonson, all these people who are very, very busy, who are very, their time is very limited, opened us up, everything up to us, and they were just unbelievable.